Hey everyone, welcome back to Eternal Brews. My name is Pojo, and we're breaking down Hooru 7s. This is a tempo deck that we built to take advantage of Svetya, Orene of Kosul. At the moment, does not need Svetya, so we're going to go ahead and release the brew a little bit early rather than save her for Svetya week, mostly because we went on a big tear with it on Twitch, and I wanted to get some actual brew stuff out before it gets a little too stale. So yeah, we're going to talk about the deck, and we're going to play a couple of games with it and show off how it goes. So what this deck is a Justice Primal tempo deck, primarily focused around Justice. It is almost mono Justice, but not quite. We're actually doing a couple of other things in here. And it's based around playing mostly good stuff that also gives you a reasonable amount of power, and leveraging that power to make sure that we hit some of our biggest cards, namely our 7-cost cards, Eilyn, Clan Mother, and Leave a Witness, which is just an amazing card for suddenly stabilizing a board full of units. This deck is very unit-centric. It has 39 units overall, and it is just a huge tempo deck with a lot of big beaters, a lot of scary stuff, and the basic idea is that it tries to establish constant and consistent power over time, just always ramping up, always playing a new threat, always playing a new threat that your opponent has to deal with in some way. So let's talk about the deck, since it is a tempo deck, or somewhat mid-rangey, although it's not really based around its mid-range bombs. In order, starting from the bottom. First off, we have Permafrost, of course, to add some removal to the deck. The deck also runs Vanquish and 1 Polymorph, just to make sure that we have enough removal to deal with the larger mid-range threats. As a tempo deck, it is not super on the line with some of the really big stuff, the Sandstorm Titans, the Heart of the Vaults, the big Praxis-y stuff, the Argenport stuff. We want to find ways around those cards when we can. We want to remove them whenever possible. So if something's too big for us to go through, then we kill it. And for that reason, we have very, very cheap, very, very efficient tempo stuff. We try not to go too expensive on any of it. We're not doing anything reactive with this deck. I tried it with Protects and Islands choices, and my general impression is that what you want to do is actually generate threats and force your opponent to respond to you. And that's one of the things that Hooru has not been typically that good at before, but because a lot of its cards actually do generate some interesting situations that make your opponent have difficult times responding, the more you can keep them on the back foot, the more basic advantage you're going to have. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through. Copperhall Porter is a bread and butter 2-drop, a 2/1 that can constantly push damage and or chump block very, very scary things. Copperhall Porter is typically always going to be just a reasonable amount of value and a reasonable amount of damage, and his Entomb effect is really, really hard not to trigger. You have a hard time using any sort of card like Feeding Time or a Silence on Copperhall Porter because there's much bigger threats in the deck, and you oftentimes will not want to just let it through over and over and over again. There are ways where you can get a little bit skunked with Copperhall Porter, but this is one of the best ways to draw Justice Sigils into your deck and make sure that you're getting the consistent power that you need. So it adds the tempo while also allowing you to get to your 3rd power, which is really, really useful. Icaria Valkyrie Captain. Not an amazing 2-drop, but an excellent 5. She plays down pretty early and can use her pay 3 to get you up to the 4s and 5s very, very quickly, so not at all bad if you're playing her that way. It's a little hard to get the 6 Justice Sigils with or the 6 Justice influence with what we've got going on, but overall, if you're playing with her, you're usually going to be able to ramp yourself up a little bit extra, and that's what usually gets you to your 7th power or to your 5th power, which is pretty important as well. We want to play very, very high value cards and very, very high value threats, so we're going for that kind of thing whenever possible. Kothon the Far Watcher. This is one of our ways to leverage the power that we're working with. As a 2-drop, he's just extremely tempo efficient. The 2/3 endurance has always been good, and the pay 6 ability is just really, really nasty. We want to have lots of power sinks in this deck because we have really good ways to get up to high amounts of power, and we want ways to leverage that power without damaging our tempo and without going too greedy on the top end, although we do have plenty greedy top end. Okay, so Daring Pioneer, this is a 2 of, because you don't really want to stack these cards up too much, but it's very, very tempo efficient, and as a 4/4, it is just kind of aggressive. It stops harsh rules, it messes with your opponent's hand. This is a running theme of the deck in general, is that we are trying to mess with our opponent's strategy while we generate threats. So while Daring Pioneer can often just bite it to a Levitate or a Seek Power or a Torch or anything, it is a card that forces your opponent to play those cards, meaning that they're not going to hit their tempo drops. drops. That means that if you play it on a turn when you're expecting your opponent to play, say, a Tavrod or a larger unit or perhaps like a Harsh Rule, then your opponent has to spend some time, and potentially he might not have the ability to deal with the Daring Pioneer, but he has to spend something to deal with the Daring Pioneer, and regardless, it's a pretty tempo-efficient unit. The 4/4 with Overwhelm, that's really, really good stat lines. If this card is unanswered, it becomes very, very annoying. Another theme of this deck. Hooru Pacifier, weapons can't be played. Above Torchline, this is just a really, really solid card. It's got 2 skills. It's got really, like, a lot of good stuff going on for it. The Justice Primal influence is exactly where we want to be with the current way that the deck is themed, so we're going for that in particular. Spire Chaplain, this card draws Justice Sigils from your deck. I often greed out on this card a lot. It's not strictly necessary here that we do that, so we're going to go ahead and just run 2 of them to make sure that we draw extra Justice Sigils whenever possible, and then we have other threats that we can actually deal with. Unseen Commando is a 2/3 with flying and lifesteal that says whenever your units with 2 or more battle skills attack, they get +1/+1 this turn. And yeah, that card is of course just ridiculously good at making lots and lots of pressure plays happen on 3. Valkyrie Enforcer does very similar things while also dealing with a lot of your opponent's threats. It lets your flyers through over Sandstorm Titans. It deals with a lot of very, very scary cards. It helps out against the Haunting Scream archetypes and the Argenport archetypes and a lot of other different decks that you really, really want to deal with. This card is just always been solid, so well worth playing. Svetya. We've talked about Svetya before, but we're trying to leverage all of Svetya's unique abilities here. First off, she's good tempo. Second, she's got the summon ability, which is crazy solid. And third, she has that pay 8 ability to draw a bunch of units off of the top of your deck. We have a super high unit count. We're happy to use Svetya here, and she's going to be pretty bamf. Our 5 drops include Amilli and Marshal Ironthorn, which are, of course, both bananas cards. Marshal Ironthorn is going to get us to 7 the turn after he's played, or so we play him typically when we're going to play our 6th power, but sometimes we just play him as a regular old 5-drop beater because we do actually want to play tempo efficient units and cards with really, really reasonable stat lines to just throw through our opponents. We don't want to get too greedy with this deck. While we sometimes save cards like Icaria to make sure we get to our top drops, Marshal Ironthorn isn't necessarily looking for the 15 here. He's often just looking to be a really aggressive card. So play the deck aggressively and you're going to get rewarded for it. Amilli as a 4/8, really, really beautiful, just constantly attacking while also defending. This card is very, very stable, dies to annihilate a lot, so it's a rough sell, but there's so many other cards here that are very, very big threats that can be killed that Amilli is just one more on top of it, and it's a crushing one. Finally, our 7s. Eilyn, Clan Mother, and Leave a Witness seal up the game. Eilyn is an endurance unit that silences 2 enemy units and also has a huge ultimate that can blow the entire board the turn after she's played. Because you've been playing threats constantly for the entirety of the game, Eilyn, Clan Mother is very, very hard to deal with on the turn that she comes out, meaning that she can very, very frequently not only block you from getting lethal, silence a bunch of things that could like really, really hurt you, but also she can just kill the whole board, and that's gonna really, really help you out. The other option is Leave a Witness, which leaves you with one of your very, very powerful threats and clears out everything on your opponent's side. This really, really helps out against the big, big decks, the Praxis decks, the Argenport, anything with just a ton of that kind of nonsense. We really, really want to do that to just sort of blow out and make sure that everything else is good to go. We play a high number of Justice Sigils, 1 Emerald Monument for kicks, 1 Cobalt Monument for the same reason. This gives you just a little bit of extra unit and just overall focus in the deck to play with, but we don't really run too heavy on it. We don't use any of the Justice Waystones, but we do use Cobalt Waystones because the Cobalt Waystones don't interfere with our ability to draw Justice Sigils off of Icaria, Copperhall Porter, and anything else that could draw us Justice Sigils, Spire Chaplain in particular. The Hooru Banner and Seat of Order mean that we're very heavily oriented towards justice. This deck is still not the perfect Icaria Valkyrie Captain deck, but it's very, very capable of playing the 6 influence you need, and it will almost always run the 2 influence you need for Unseen Commando, Hooru Pacifier, and the 3 for Amilli, Cloudmarshal, and Leave a Witness, which is one of the weaknesses of all of these cards, is they're very, very heavy influence requirements. We're really, really leveraging that. We're really trying to go very hard on tempo. All right, that's it. We're going to play a couple of games with it, and we'll show you how it goes. Alright, game one with a Squee Goblin, Kothon the Far Watcher, and Permafrost, along with a Marshal Ironthorn, gives us a little bit of stuff to play early, not a lot, but I do think this is probably a keepable hand just because it's got a good 2-drop and a really, really good 5 that we are capable of hitting. Since I can see myself playing all of the cards in my hand, which is one of the most, one of the better ways to evaluate your hand, is does it have a plan that you can actually execute on, then yeah, we can fill out the gaps with what we draw. Play the Hooru banner first, just to make sure that we have it. We could play the Cobalt monument down first, just to make sure that we get that played out depleted. In general, you want to play your monuments depleted whenever possible, because they're more cards that you want to draw later to actually sort of augment your deck than cards that you want to draw early. I'll play the Kothon the Far Watcher here. There is some argument for Icaria Valkyrie Captain here, but I think that I'd rather play her on a turn when I don't expect my opponent to be doing much, so we'll go ahead and throw her down a little bit later. Okay, this deck is Great Kiln Titan fun, so that's certainly something where we're going to want our Vanquish as soon as we can get it, because Stirring Sands is a really, really big deal. If I just Permafrost this, the Great Kiln Titan's going to wreck our whole day, so yeah, cheating out a Stirring Sands Great Kiln Titan could be very bad. At least I found that Vanquish, so I'm a pretty happy camper right now. Gonna go ahead and attack for 2. Play the Icaria Valkyrie Captain, and we'll see if he chooses to torch or chooses to throw his Stirring Sand immediately. Great Kiln Titan could play any number of things and could really wreck our day depending on how it goes, but we'll find out in a second. Okay, not too bad off. We're going to go ahead and just play the ability on the Icaria and get ourselves up to 5. That way Marshal Ironthorn can get us to 7, and we can just basically loot our way out of any problems that we're having. I've got the Vanquish to follow up, so I'm not in too bad of a situation overall. Emerging Colossus is pretty scary, but probably not the end of the world. I'm just going to Ironthorn Vanquish the 5-6 here, and then we'll have Leave a Witness to follow up. Alright, Herald's Song, drawing and discarding. It doesn't look like Squee has access to his Stirring Sands yet, which is pretty important. He also hasn't played down any Explorers, which means he can't play multiple cards out off of the top of his deck. So Ironthorn Double Justice Vanquish gives me a 4-3 Valkyrie, a 2-3 Kothon, and a dead Sandstorm Titan. There's really not much I don't like about that equation, so we're going to go ahead and do the Vanquish. And attack him for 6. Now at this point, Kothon can create Owls. I don't have to Leave a Witness until I'm feeling particularly basically pressured. At this point, my opponent's probably looking to throw torches. If he's got more torches, he'll throw more torches, I'm sure, but I have no problems with just playing lots and lots of power out of here and getting my Owl, so let's get that going. Okay, now Amber Acolyte is a card that I would really, really like to get rid of. I'm going to probably consider Permafrosting it, just to stop the Stirring Sands. But since I've got the Leave a Witness, and the Leave a Witness is probably going to play, I will wait. I think we can afford not to deal with the Stirring Sands. And what do you know? We pressured our opponent to death and still had plenty of options to deal with the first Stirring Sands, if not the second one. So yeah, feel pretty good about that one. All right, here we are against Snow Crash. Lovely name. But I think we're the heroes in this scenario, so Hooru banner and Justice Sigil. Gonna go ahead and see what we can do with it. We got Copperhall Porter, we got Daring Pioneer. We are ready to rock and roll. Let's see if we can get it going. So, as far as things go, I have the early game pretty well sealed up. I have the Double Justice that I need to get most things going. Against a Stone Scar deck, Daring Pioneer is probably going to die to a torch or something simple, but it's not an unreasonable 3-drop, and I'm certainly happy to drop it if it means that my opponent doesn't get to drop as many 2 or 3 drops as he wants to drop. So we'll see what we can do, and if we can actually get the necessary materials down to stop him from doing what he wants. Oh, in fact, Daring Pioneer is very good against more armory-focused decks, I believe.
You'll never catch me alive!
Let's get ourselves a little bit of damage and see what we can do. Cobalt Waystones are slow activations. I definitely need a little bit more gas here if I want to survive. We're looking at possibly traditional armory, possibly red, green, purple removal pile with Icaria. There's all sorts of ways that this could sort of work out, but we are stopping the quarries, we are stopping a lot of other options from happening. Looks like he's actually taking the damage from Daring Pioneer, which means we get Daring Pioneer value. Always awesome. Copperhall Porter, if it dies to anything, is definitely a pretty happy camper. Rise to the Challenge can't be played while Snow Crash is stuck here, so if he plays it, it's going to get countered. And instead he has to go ahead and go for that Auric Runehammer. I'll go ahead and attack here. I'm going to play the Cobalt Waystone. Since Marshal Ironthorn activates Eilyn, I think I will hold on to Marshal Ironthorn, although I don't love doing it against these types of decks. We'll see if I can get him to play a little bit more out, and if that happens, yeah, Ironthorn's a pretty happy camper. Armory's a trickier matchup. We do have a lot of units, though, so we can usually outlast. The main question here is, what all is his deck doing, and what's his best way of winning?
Let's dance.
A 3-3 Whirling Duo. Not anyone's favorite card. I'll go ahead and play my Ironthorn. With the Cobalt Waystone, that means I get an Aegis, and the 2-1 gets to attack in and do some damage, so I'm a relatively happy camper right now. Eilyn Clanmother will need to silence the 3-3. Once she's out, she will deal with a lot of other scary things, namely Icaria. She's pretty okay at dealing with Icaria. So since we're expecting a harsh rule here, he's going to attack with the 3-3. He might have some sort of trick for it, but I'm guessing that this is a rule. Oh, it's actually a torch. Fair enough. I think we can live with that. Alright, Navarro's favor is popping the Aegis on my face. Not quite sure why. Unseen Commando could buff things up. I think we're just going to be happy with Eilyn.
The throne is mine by right.
I guess he wanted to trade the Copperhall Porter here, and I'm fine with drawing the Justice Sigil out of my hand. That'll give me a little bit more to play with. Now, this deck we don't have a good matchup with yet, but we will have a better deck matchup once we get Svetya, because Svetya really messes with this deck's ability to cast Harsh Rules, and with its ability to do Rise to the Challenge, and a lot of other cards that it really wants to play all the time. At the moment, like, we're much more likely to get Harsh Ruled than to not get Harsh Ruled, so that's kind of a problem, but overall we've got a reasonable amount of stuff to play with, so we might be able to get a little bit more gas and play it out. Alright, I'm at 4. Icaria drops down and plays another Justice and becomes a 4-3, but only if I have one more. He's got the Icaria of his own, so that's not great. We have to double Vanquish that, and I really don't love that. But Vanquish, Hooru Pacifier means that he could draw a big weapon and not be able to play it, so let's hope that the remaining 2 cards in his hand do not include Valkyrie Enforcer or Harsh Rule. Because if they don't, we can beat him to death in 3 turns. Alright. Discounted Harsh Rule is definitely a problem. Whirling Duo with a buff is not that bad, actually. We got the Leave a Witness, so pretty comfy just killing that. And now we're all back to square one. His last card is probably a power. It could be a good card like a weapon or a Rise to the Challenge. Could be another Whirling Duo. I guess I'm okay with that as well. Like, we certainly can deal with it. We just need to draw the right cards. Don't currently have them. So, let's see what we can do. Alright, Devastating Setback. That's one less card for him. Whirling Duo doing his Whirling Duo thing. Kothon the Far Watcher doing better for me. Now that we're at this sort of top end, we're pretty happy. We'd like to keep playing Primal Sigils out a little bit at a time, not a lot at a time. I'll probably go ahead and take the 3 here. Getting down to 3 is kind of bad because, you know, we don't want to. But nothing we can do about it. Go ahead and silence the 3-3 and trade with it. And we just have to dodge that Auric Runehammer and or Starsteel Die Show. Or another Icaria. So there's about 12 cards in his deck that could be pretty devastating for us if we continue to not pick up any gas. Make that 16. Okay, so we're probably dead here. Like, there's just not a lot we can do against what I'm guessing is a Starsteel Die Show. He could go Auric Runehammer and then we'd be fine. But I'm guessing that's not an Auric Runehammer. If it's a Starsteel Die Show, then Valkyrie Enforcer saves our lives. At least for the moment. Because an Icaria, then we're still dead. Although we're actually not. We've got 5 on in the air, so Icaria would be a 7/5, worth blocking. Torch means he's probably got it.
Rise up or be cut down.
I can block this and potentially get away with an Eilyn, but no, we're super dead. Anyways, that's a matchup that we will be better set up against once we have Svetyas, but unfortunately the promo season is always one Svetya first. And that means we have no Svetyas at all. Alright, we're up against Byronosaurus Rex, Seat of Order, Cobalt Monument, and Justice Sigil. I think I'm pretty satisfied with this. I'm going to go ahead and keep this hand. The double Ironthorns mean that we have some potential to make very, very scary things happen in the late game. I don't know if it's super tempo-oriented, so this might be the wrong type of keep, but I do like that it's got a plan. With the Cobalt Monument, we have to decide whether or not we want to play this as a power or whether we want to play it as a unit. Basically, that's going to be dependent on how much power we draw in the next couple of turns. I think it's pretty likely that we're going to want to play it as a power almost immediately. Possibly should have played it turn 1. Alright. And I keep forgetting that I have the BM emote at the moment because Svetya says move, move instead of so much to learn. But that's okay. That's okay. Okay, cool. So we will go ahead and play Daring Pioneer here. That gets some sort of spell out of his hand, most likely, and if he doesn't have a spell, then we get to beat him with a 4/4 for a decent amount of time, so could be quite satisfying. Find the Way is definitely a very good value for Daring Pioneer. A bit unfortunate there. We'll play the Unseen Commando, and we will play, I'm going to say Emerald Monument as a depleted power, just so that we get to Ironthorn on time. Okay, so this 2/3 is definitely good little attacker, gonna do a lot of work. Getting a Hailstorm out of his hand is certainly some amount of work at least. Let's see if Ironthorn plays, and if Ironthorn plays, we're gonna just get aggressive with him. I got no problems with playing 5/5s as 5/5s here. Like, we aren't going super aggressive, and we've run out of gas. We want to be doing something every turn, so it's very, very important that we actually be aggressive whenever possible. Seat of Fury here gets him the potential to do something else. Rain of Frogs would have really hurt if we'd actually had an Ironthorn down, but as it stands, we're just attacking for 5, playing our Froggo, and getting in for 6 a turn with 2 Permafrosts and a Vanquish to stop whatever's in the overall setup. This kind of looks like the Reanimator Sentinels deck, but it's very, very spell heavy, so it might be Moment of Creation. Moment of Creation is pretty bad news here, considering how much control he's played. Like, I am definitely suffering for actual cards here. We do have a good top end that we can play with that might help us out. If I can find a Leave a Witness, then we can Leave a Witness Froggos and get rid of the Moment that way. Overall, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spells in his deck, so the moments are going to be 5/5 Sentinels. That's not out of the question here. Alright, continuing to force through damage, continuing to get at least cards that kill Moment of Creation Sentinels. Secret Pages gets him up to 2 Momentum Sentinels, so that's going to cost me a lot, but let's see if we can get it working. I'd say Permafrost Vanquish is the most appropriate path, seeing as that leaves us a little less open to a second Rain of Frogs. Byronosaurus is looking at the top of his deck, and we now have to decide if we are disconnected. Nope, we're good to go. Good old Jotun Feast Caller. Alright, so I'd say Amilli is great here. I don't know if I want to play it over Feast Caller. I'm just going to go ahead and Permafrost Vanquish Feast Caller. Sadly, we're on the reactive side at the moment, so this could get a little ugly. Yep, no fun. Copperhall Porter gets us extra power, which we can use to play Amilli out. We don't have Ironthorn, so we're not going to be able to play that power for like lots of extra value, but we'll still get some. Valkyrie Enforcer silences the 4/4. And then we just Vanquish it again. And I'm still doing the pressure. Like, we're still forcing our opponent... We've actually forced our opponent to start reacting to us again, which is very, very good. He's still on 3 cards, so that could be any number of bad things for me. Hailstorm in particular, not great. Torch, that's probably fine. Moment of Creation, though. Yeah, it's a pretty tricky beat. We'll go ahead and Permafrost one of those. I've got 5 in the air, so... Or I've got 5 overall. Wisdom of the Elders, not the card we wanted to see. That just gives him so much extra gas, so we're kind of stuck looking for ways to get out of this. I don't love that Hailstorm, but it's fine. We at least get a Justice Sigil out of here, which means we have less chance of drawing them, and also we get to be aggressive for a little bit more. Seed of Order, not a card I'm looking for. We're on a very, very short clock here. Gotta find a Leave a Witness or a Vanquish. I do not want to get forced on defense, so I'm gonna do whatever we can to stop that. Alright, that's probably game. Alright, here we are up against Diego. Kept a hand with Unseen Commando, feeling okay about it. Like, overall, there's not too much that we can play with here because everything's depleted, but the Seed of Order does allow us to play Unseen Commando on 3, as does the Emerald Monument. So let's go ahead and play the Emerald Monument here, since that gives us a little bit more likelihood that we're going to play Amilli on 5, which is always important. Unseen Commando is just lovely, lovely, lovely. That's got that lifesteal going on. It's probably going to be a Torch Magnet here, but I'm totally comfy with that. Like, that's fine if we're losing a little bit of access to get our vampirism going. Daring Pioneer's nice too. Let's go with Unseen Commando. I like Daring Pioneer here, but I think I want to play it after the Torch. So let's see if we can actually get a 4/4 down that can defend itself. Well, Cinder Yeti suggests he might not have a spell at all, and Daring Pioneer allows us to at least keep this guy and continue to steal life with him, so I'm very into this. We're going to go ahead and play the Justice Sigil here. And now if he wants the Torch, he's going to sacrifice the Pioneer instead of the 2/3, so that feels pretty good on my end. And then I get to play Amillis, which are very, very good against this deck. And we're still getting the 3 life turn off Unseen Commando, which is helping us stabilize. So, all pretty happy. Strategize is cancelled. No strategies today. 2 for Daring Pioneer, no draws for him. I'm feeling pretty comfy with that. Okay, this is starting to look a little bit more oriented towards Rally, which I would not like, but I think I'm probably going to be fine playing down Amilli and seeing if we can just get in. The extra health we gain is very, very meaningful. We want to keep attacking here. I don't want to be defensive and potentially lose the Unseen Commando to a Rally. Unless I think Rally's going to kill me, in which case, absolutely fine to do that. Okay, so here I think we block the biggest amount of damage first. The War Cries are pretty scary, but they're not the end of the world. Kothon the Far Watcher gives us a little bit of defense. I'm pretty happy with that. I also like Amilli here, so let's go with Kothon plus a Permafrost on the 2/2.
What do you see?
Attack with both of these guys. That way I get the life, and I also get a Chump Blocker for the 3/2. At this point, we're getting pretty close to stable. The Rally only does 9, so that's good news. Kothon's got Endurance, which means I can continue to attack with him every turn. Very happy for that. And Amilli can also attack every turn, which I'm exceptionally glad for. Alright, Shogun Scepter means that we're eating a different setup here. I think I'm going to block a Grenadin just because the Rally is very scary. Alright. Icaria Valkyrie Captain ramps us a little bit, but probably isn't the card that I most want to play here. Kothon can continue to do his Kothon-y thing, so I'm probably into that. Let's go ahead and attack with this guy and see if we can kill 2 units.
For the crown watch!
I get a 2/2 guy. Very happy to have that. And I keep enough chump blockers that I'm a pretty happy camper. So, yeah, I think we've got this. A 4/8, a 2/3, and a 2/2. Can't exhaust his way through that even with a 2 Cinder Yetis. I think he'd probably still lose out. The 11/9 is just chump blockable forever, and I've got lethal in the air, so that's going to be game. Good stuff. Alright, that's going to be it for today's brews. I don't have anything extra for you on this one. We will be doing many more Svetya brews soon, and I'm going to be playing around with all sorts of cool new ideas. So we're going to get some cool B-sides up, I'm sure. This is a pretty competitive list. You can definitely ladder with this deck. We made it up from like gold 2 to diamond 1 with it, and then we played a couple rounds with that and still ended up like 60-40 or so. I lost a game to a disconnect, so I don't know if I'm totally confident in the measurements yet, but I think it's got what it takes to actually fight it out with most of the other decks on the ladder. So feel free to give it a shot, and if you like it, you like it, and if you want to do some tuning to it, that's totally acceptable as well. Like, there's lots of cool things you can do with this type of deck. There's a lot of fun things we can do with this type of deck as well, which I think will be probably the next thing we cover in these brews. So let's get excited for that. I'm pretty psyched for all of the cool Svetya stuff. I'm excited to have more Svetyas, and really happy to get started on it. So see you guys next time. Feel free to like or subscribe if you like the video. You can get notifications, all that stuff. There's a little alarm bell, I think. I don't know. There's stuff out there. But regardless, thank you for watching. It's good to have you here. It's good to be doing this, and we're looking forward to doing a lot more. So see you next time. Cheers.